Ladies and gentlemen, I am StooDogg, and I'm joined today by Kadenza, so we can sit down and talk about the Orville Season 2, Episode 3, Home.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, this has been a long time coming. We've been talking about doing the Orville for a while now, but we just kept thinking of, interesting Star Trek episodes instead.
We just haven't got around to it yet. We need to make a list of things and just work through it in order.
Yeah, that, or we could do the South Park thing where we cut the head off of a chicken and just let it, run around until it lands on something.
Dude, we don't want to get cancelled by PETA, man.
Well, I don't remember originally why we chose this episode, but having literally just watched it about an hour ago, I'm glad that we did. So why don't we talk about the Orville and, what we like about it so much? It is Star Trek, made by Seth MacFarlane.
It's like Star Trek, but with more booze and fart jokes.
Yep, and, it's a lot of times I ask myself, with the humor, is it too much? Does it go too far? And it's no, because the show never really takes itself too seriously, but it still has the ability to be dramatic and have characters that actually are serious, it has serious moments, but it has a lot of moments of levity, and I think that is something that a lot of people struggle with, but Seth MacFarlane seems to be really good at.
I was finding that watching this episode, and a lot of people find the Orville to be sort of, not that serious, sort of kooky humor, but I felt that this episode was really the humor was there at some points, but it was quite serious.
I felt the same way. I didn't remember it being quite as serious as it was, and especially towards the end, it really takes a kind of a terrifying turn, the idea of being invaded in your own home and, being held at gunpoint is, I'm sure, a fear a lot of my fellow Americans have, but it is a really scary ordeal, but before we get too ahead of ourselves, I guess we should explain what this episode is about. So it's called Home.
Yeah, so basically we start off and Alara and the other crew members are just chilling out in the bar, and Isaac walks in, and is it Lamar who says that they want Isaac and Alara to do their weekly arm wrestling thing, and Bortus says to Alara, I've got a bet on you, do not fail me.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because they just take the strongest members of the crew and they're for everyone's entertainment, do some arm wrestling. And it's Alara's very man, really? She's all again? I guess I'll humor you guys again, But it seems like it's neck and neck for a long time. About a minute, they're just arm wrestling and they're evenly matched, and then all of a sudden Isaac gets the upper hand and he slams her arm down super hard and breaks it.
And dude, that sickening crunch that you hear?
Yeah, it was visceral.
Boom! And it's Isaac for the win. What's the matter? Alara, are you okay?
Call Dr. Finn. I think my arm is broken.
And the thing is, for potentially any new viewers, Alara is what are they called? Solarian, and she has super strength.
I loosened it for you.
Kind of like Klingons, right, or Vulcans, but her arm should not break that easily.
Yeah, so the idea being that where she's from, her planet has extreme gravity, so with extreme gravity becomes creatures with extreme bone density and extreme muscle to be able to move about on such a strong gravity place. So that's given her sort of, extreme levels of strength, and she's absolutely tiny.
She is like, and it's funny because she, upon realizing like what has happened, she is shocked. Like, she doesn't know what's going on, but she, I forgot who she talks to, but she's like, call the doctor. Like, I need to go to sick bay right away, and she gets there. And they find out that what is going on with her is that because she is in a low gravity environment on the Orville compared to her home planet, she's losing her muscle density, and her bones are getting brittler and weaker, which is a very real thing. In space, astronauts have to continuously work out in special equipment so that they don't lose too much muscle. However, they still lose a lot.
Real thing with 0G.
Right. And, the Orville is comfortable, like, 1G, for all the different humanoid species, and Yanfei.
Yaphet,
What are you doing here?
I have a grievance.
How'd you get into my office?
I'm Gel.
They all seem to be okay in that environment, right? It kind of reminds me of that Deep Space Nine episode with the cadet who is from a high gravity place.
Melora.
Or is it a low gravity environment? Yeah, it's a low gravity environment.
It's a low gravity environment because
Yeah.
she goes into her quarters and she's able to like fly basically when she goes out the wheelchair thing, and she has like an exoskeleton that she wears as well.
Yeah, and Julian, like, of course, schmoozes on her a little bit because he's like very impressed with how like independent she is despite this extreme handicap that she has to be in a wheelchair. And we have the opposites kind of thing going on now. Alara is very brittle.
Yeah, so Melora Pell, yeah, she was able to fly, and like she had that exoskeleton and stuff.
Yeah, and she like tripped and fell at one point and was literally lying there on the ground for hours because nobody knew where she was. So it's like, there's this idea of low or high gravity environments is actually a very real thing that we're probably going to have to deal with at some point, because if Elon Musk really wants to send people to Mars is like tinier than the Earth. I mean, it's similar, but it doesn't have the same gravitational pull. So either people on Mars are just going to be really lanky, or they're just not going to be able to live there because it's just too different.
This episode, we got guest stars John Billingsley, who played Phlox in Enterprise, Robert Picardo, who played the EMH, and Molly Hagan, who played Iris, the first Vorta that appeared on DS9.
Yeah, it's really cool when they bring people from Star Trek, or just people in general that, celebrities onto the Orville, because it's like, Seth MacFarlane has these connections. He can look up just about anybody, and I'm kind of surprised that he never got Avery Brooks for anything, because Avery Brooks, I imagine, would have said hell yeah. But Robert Picardo, right?
He's had Troy, he's had Tuvok, he's had scores of people. I mean, the Doctor's played by the lady that played Cassidy Yates.
There's so many doctors in this episode. It's like an episode of Doctor Who, I swear.
As you were saying there, it would have been cool if he got Avery Brooks
to
be alongside the lady that played Cassidy.
Yeah, just have a scene with them like together, and they're like different characters, obviously, but he's just like, you look familiar, that would have been cool. Let's hold out hope for Orville season 4, I think.
Oh yeah, fingers and toes crossed, man, and eyes crossed.
I'm right there with you, because season 3 was, chef's kiss. Anyway.
So, Alara's in sickbay being treated for the broken arm, and the doctor works out that she's having the muscle degradation, and that really the only thing that she can do is go back home and sort of rehabilitate her body to get her strength back. And whilst for some people this can take a short amount of time, the longest recovery has been known to take up to 4 years, and there has been a report of someone who it happened to that was never able to regain their strength.
I feel like, again, that this is based on, real evidence of, the astronauts that we have on the space station, because they're up there for about 6 months. And sometimes they come back and they have medical complications that never go away. And it's dangerous. Space is not friendly. So she's basically having like a crisis because, suddenly her entire life and her career are just like shelved. She can't be there. And she talks to the captain, Seth MacFarlane, and is like, telling him that I can't be your chief of security. This is not gonna work because I could get beat up by a high schooler right now.
But if you did decide to stay,
Then you'd have a security chief who could get beaten up by a high schooler.
That's exactly what she says.
She's a frail thing, and it's like, what is her option besides going home? And she does not like that. She, I feel like they've dropped a few hints about her past with why she, joins the Union in the first place is probably explored in other episodes, but they go very deep into it here. And essentially, she joined the Union because she's dumb?
Look, sweetheart. You were born with certain disadvantages. We both know if you hadn't been slower than the other children, you wouldn't have felt trapped into joining the fleet.
Dad, I was well aware of my intellectual weaknesses. I had you to remind me every day.
Basically, yeah. Like her dad's really laying into her about her. I think he says at one point mental deficiencies, right?
Yeah.
That's
not
a
very
really
nice about it.
cold way to put it.
Especially about your own child's. And he's Robert Picardo he's good at playing an asshole. I'll give him that. He's really good at playing an asshole. And I feel like
that's the thing when he's playing our dad in this episode, he's not so much an asshole so much as he's a smart ass. But
yes,
you can tell that all of this comes from a place of love.
I am sorry I was such a project.
We put in a lot of time and a lot of energy. Do you know why? Because we love you.
And he's not tactful about it.
No.
But he loves her so much.
Well, they go to Xeleya, the home planet, and it's like, it is very beautiful and very, like, you can tell
Best
that
looking planet in the Union.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say.
When I see this, I think I'm trash and my family's trash. Says Lloyd.
Bro, I had a moment when he said that where I was like, wow, that's exactly how I felt when I visited my first big city. I was like, wow, I'm trash. My family's trash. Fuck. Like, but it's...
I made a note here about the soundtrack as well when they're on the shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noted that the music score it's very Star Trek. Like going back to movies, like Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek 3. It's got that almost orchestral score about it.
It's that big bombastic look at this place, like it. And they show the city, one of the main cities on Xeleya, and it's like you can tell that they're a race that is sophisticated, but not like completely disconnected from nature. They include a lot of nature in their designs, and it's very like there's cyberpunk,
like
and then there's solar punk. It's kind of solar punky. It's very much like a combination of science and nature living together in harmony, and you get the sense that their race is a very intelligent one, and one that values, I guess, peace above a lot of things. Like, they come out and say that, like, most Xeleyans just don't like the military. They think that it's for stupid people. And like you said, Robert Picardo does this out of love because in his mind, she is wasting her life away and is potentially putting herself in danger for no reason in his mind. And then they leave the city and they go to her childhood home, which is, again, like, the set design for everything is like alien enough, but also very like it's a family home. You get that feeling, you know what I mean? Like, it's
the moment when she gets out the shuttle and like there's like a gravity field around the shuttle, and whenever anyone needs
I
to
forgot
leave,
about the gravity field.
they need to wear those suit things.
Yeah.
And when she goes out of it, the first thing she does is like gets overwhelmed and she just collapses.
Alara!
Honey, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just the gravity.
Looks like it's more serious than we were told.
Right, because all the gravity just hits her at once.
Like for the most of the episode after that, she's going about in a wheelchair thing.
Yeah.
Because like it's not able to stand the gravity of her home planet, which is that's a gut punch for the viewer. Like especially a viewer who's been sitting there for, well, we said that was season 2, episode 3.
Yeah.
So if there was at least 15 to 20 episodes in the first season, you know, we've been with her on her journey for quite a while, and like she's a good character. I like her, and to see her like that is like it's a gut punch.
It is, you know, and it's like she's always been depicted as this extremely strong person. Like she has a very strong will, but she's also physically stronger than everybody. And to see her like just flat out fall on the ground and have to like go around in a wheelchair it sucks. You know, it's like you really get a sense of her despair at the situation. So before Captain
Almost
Mercer
like
leaves,
or being hit by the barrel things in that episode.
That barrel, I mean, if you watch that shot, it's like you can tell there's nothing in that barrel when it hits him. It is literally like plastic, you know, and they're like, oh, it broke his spine. It's like, how? I didn't see any impact there. Yeah, but Captain Mercer goes to leave, and you know, before he tells her that like your job's always gonna be waiting for you, and he's very much like, we gotta find a solution for this that keeps her on the Orville, because he is very much like no, we go together, we're a family, like this crew is my family, you know, like we solve our problems together. Before they go, Gordon throws, like, he's like, I've always wanted to try this.
All right, come on, let's go.
Hey, hang on. I've always wanted to try something on this planet. Brought this with me.
Wow! Oh man, thank God for gravity shields.
And he takes like an aluminum can or something, and he just like throws it out into the gravity outside the shield, and it just instantly crushes it. And it's like just driving home the point that this place is dangerous for non-Xeleyans, or, you know, species that aren't strong physically. I don't even think Boris could step out there, to be completely honest with you. You know, like, he's strong, but he wasn't the one arm wrestling her. You know what I mean?
His strength is in his stomach. He could literally, like, anything.
Yeah, that's another thing. They always have gags in like the cafeteria where the crew is just hanging out, and I adore that, because those are some of my favorite scenes in like classic Star Trek, is just when there's a little bit of downtime and the crew is just like hanging out and like talking to each other about something, like, or, you know, doing something together. Like, yeah, it's like, you know, when everybody's not all stressed out about something, you have time for the characters to breathe, which is something that Star Trek Discovery didn't give me any. I ended up watching the first, the premiere episodes, the first 2 episodes with my wife, and we did not like it. She's become a Star Trek fan with me as well, because I showed her The Next Generation, and we just went from there, and now we're almost done with Voyager, and we're gonna move on to Enterprise after that. But I asked her if she wanted to watch more Discovery, and she was like, you know, I think I'm good. Like, nah. So we're lit.
It wants to punch Alara's dad in the face.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. Captain Merce says he's got a very punchable face or some shit like that, and it's like,
It's no wonder she's so hard on herself all the time. God, I'd like to punch that guy in the face.
I had a good chuckle about that because I always felt like Robert Picardo had a like, especially as the Doctor. Sometimes I just want people to like shove him out of the way or punch him or something, but you can't because he's a hologram.
Being smug.
He is very good at being smug, and when she's in her childhood like room, and her dad comes in, I just want to point out that I was looking at the bed and the pillows and stuff, and like it looks very comfortable, but I'm pretty sure that those pillows weigh a ton. Like they have to, right?
Like proper massive memory foam pillows.
Yeah, like they're super thick or something. I imagine laying your head down on that probably feels like laying down on a steel bar. But they have a conversation in there where, you know, it's just her and her father, and it's kind of like, you know...
You could go back to school, get a degree.
Yeah, he's trying to encourage her
like,
to
you
stay.
really did not approve of the Orville.
And she's like, Dad, I am going back as soon as I can, and you gotta deal with it and stuff. And he's like... It seems that they've had this argument quite a few times before, but essentially she tells him, like, all I ever wanted you to do was say that I could do it. You know, and you always put me down, and it's like, man, the scenes between the family in this, like...
Yeah, like, saying words like, you know, she's mentally deficient and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like he's not
harsh.
encouraging her, he's discouraging everything, and I know a lot of people that are like that, you know, because their parents are just not supportive for whatever reason, and, you know, it's like, you kind of understand where her dad is coming from, but you still feel like he's kind of being a prick. He's just
I've got noted down here as well, that, like, the clothing design as well is very, like, elven. it goes with it.
Yeah, it wouldn't look out of place in, like, Lord of the Rings or something. Shoot, what's the name of it?
Especially when, like, she has that sort of, like, flashback where she's riding down the beach on that, like, the horse deer thing.
Yeah, I interpreted that as her, like, desire for freedom, and her, like, you know, her current situation being that she can't even stand. Getting on a mount and riding off into the sunset is, like, her fantasizing about being free from this problem. Or, I feel like it's two-pronged, because it's like, it's her current situation, but it's also her situation with her family. She wanted to run away from them because of how, you know, discouraging they are about everything. And she found a life for herself and, like, a surrogate family, you know, which I feel like the way that she has accepted her life, you know, she's satisfied with it, which makes the end of the episode, like, so unpredictable. Family is trash. Oh, I put down that their planet has red oceans, it looks like, or kind of like maybe it's reflected off of the sun or something like that, but the waves in the ocean look like a color red. I just thought that was pretty.
I think everything, the whole aesthetic of the planet is just gorgeous.
It's dope.
Like, it's so nice to look at.
Yeah, it is when, like, you know, you have freaking Bethesda, you know, we got 10,000 planets for you to visit, but they're all rocks. You know, it's like, it's kind of nice when people put time and effort and think things through about what an alien world would be like, because it feels like a real place. Everything that they set up makes it feel like it's a real place, but not a place that I'd want to be, because it is crushing gravity.
They're talking away and they're just like, well, you know what, let's go to the beach house. And she says something like, yeah, I don't think a trip to the beach is going to make up for, was it 20 years of sort of being treated like the dumb one.
I feel like this is every older father's, like, solution to familiar problems is, let's go on vacation. And then they go on vacation and their problems follow them, inevitably. It's like, wow, now everybody's just really wound up because they're not in their normal space. I also like the design of their little shuttlecraft things. It looks very, it's kind of minimalistic, but also
Got that written
alien.
down here as well.
Yeah.
Space cool.
Let me see. And I think they cut back to the Orville, and there's another ship
Yes.
lined up with the Orville, and you cut to
So it's Ed's
Captain
new,
Grayson.
Ed's new security officer, Mr. Tharl, who looks kind of like an elephant. He's got like a trunk thing that comes out the front of his face and goes into his stomach.
Did you recognize him?
No.
You didn't? It's Krunk. Hold on, the actor's name. I should probably have written that down. You never seen The Emperor's New Groove?
No.
Patrick Warburton. Patrick Warburton. I'm sure if you saw a picture of him, you would, yeah, let me send you a picture there. Copy. Paste. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I do recognize.
He is in a lot of things. He has a very recognizable voice. But I literally laughed out loud when I first saw him.
He also played the voice of Joe Swanson in Family Guy.
Quick, to the Petercopter! Oh God! Oh God! Oh God! Oh my God! Oh!
Peter, what the hell?
Joe, get inside! The blades are still spinning!
Peter, what is that thing?
Joe, get it!
Tearing up my yard!
Oh
my
God!
God!
No!
Yep, he does that. He does a lot of
Connection,
animated characters. And yeah, it's like
It's the way that he talks. He's just like, bitchin'.
This ship is totally sick, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was checking it out on the way up here. I'm like, man, this is bitchin'. I like all the carpets.
yeah, very laid back.
When he points at Kermit the Frog on Ed's desk, he's like, "What's that?" It's Kermit the Frog. He's like, sick.
Hey, what is that?
Kermit the Frog?
Sick.
He doesn't know what Kermit the Frog is. He's just like, that's sick. I actually like his character, you know, because it's like it's played for laughs and shit, but it's like, man, what a weird alien, you know? Like, he's got like an elephant trunk that is actually an esophagus that, like, his species has two esophaguses, right? The normal one, and then this like elephant trunk that goes directly to the belly.
He says that they've got a high metabolism, so he needs to eat a lot, and he's just like, I can just pound food, man. Like, pound.
Ugh. And it's like, everybody else is just like, because he goes to his station with everybody on the bridge, and he just sits down with like this fucking bowl of something. He just starts mashing it. He just starts mashing it like real hard.
Bang, 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 bang. Thud, 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 thud. When he starts eating it, he's like, slurp, 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 slurp.
Hey, you know, Tharl, you can take a break if you want. Go eat in the mess hall.
I'm good. I like to work through lunch.
I think it's Boris that asks him, like, what is that? He's like, that's stew. It's Boris.
No, the trunk thing.
May I ask, what is that?
This is stew.
No, your appendage.
It's my esophagus. My species has a crazy high metabolism, so we evolved two esophaguses, one on the inside, one on the outside, so we can just pound food. Just pound it.
It's like, oh yeah, it's the second esophagus.
Yeah, Boris asks about his trunk. He's a real chill character, and he shows up a lot, actually, like, going forward. Because they eventually get another Xeleyan to be their security officer. But I feel like he kind of takes a back role as, like, the backup security officer. To be fair, I wouldn't want to get in a tussle with that guy. He's got, like, two esophaguses.
He would eat you.
The man is hungry all the time.
Pound food.
So as they're chilling out in the beach house, John Billingsley shows up with his wife and said that like they were staying along the beach and that they think that someone's been in their house, like sort of.
Yeah. I
not
wrote
stealing
down
stuff, but
that
like, sort of they were there.
I wrote down that Xeleya sees a light in the distance and is like immediately suspicious because they were told by the groundskeeper that it's the off season and the island is abandoned. Like there's nobody else here for vacation right now.
There.
But then Phlox shows up with his wife, and let me just say, as soon as he shows up and smiles, it's the same smile. Like I know it's the same guy. But if you put those two like smiles next to each other, it's the same smile, and I was so happy. I had like a moment of just pure joy seeing that, because Phlox is an underrated character, and Enterprise is an underrated Star Trek show, so it's nice that they're like included too. And they show up.
Something that I liked about Phlox was just the sheer range of he could go from just being this sort of like the major comedic relief to being the most serious character in the space of like, you know, just a couple of minutes.
Oh, he was serious about his craft, and you know, like, you want to talk about frontier medicine, Phlox was keeping all kinds of specimens in that lab.
Do you mind if I feed your animals before I go?
That probably shouldn't be on a starship, but for whatever reason, they were useful for, you know, practicing medicine. And, I don't know, like, I really like it when Star Trek or any other series just has really weird aliens with really weird cultural differences, because it's refreshing, you know? We have a lot of different cultures here on Earth, and we're all the same species. So, like, why wouldn't an alien just be completely foreign to us?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they ask them, like, they say that, you know, they think somebody broke into their home, but it's like, at this point, nobody's really suspecting them of anything, but they ask about the groundskeeper, and they're like, well, we've had him for years. You know, he's never done anything to, like, make us second-guess him. Like, he would never go rooting around in somebody's home. And they're like, oh, we didn't mean to accuse, and blah, blah, blah. And, Alara goes with her sister to, like,
that when
his cabin.
When they're in the space car, they're talking about sort of the way that Xeleya is the sort of the education world, the thinking planet. And I've noted down here that it's like to say that Xeleya is the opposite of the Mocklins.
Very much.
Who are like they build weapons. Their atmosphere is like majorly polluted with fossil fuels. Xeleya and Mocklus are like polar opposites of each other.
I would not want to see a war between those two, because I feel like the Mocklins would have the superior firepower, but the Xeleyans would just invent like a super doomsday weapon because they're just that smart, you know? Like, and it's cool because
gravity gun.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool actually, a super gravity thing. But it's cool that the Orville is so fleshed out. There's so much thought and care put into each like line of dialogue and each character and each like alien species and how they all get along. It's like, it is a spiritual successor to Star Trek, and it's really a shame that it's not more popular, because in my honest opinion, it carries the flame of Star Trek way better than any modern Star Trek that I've seen like the past 10 years.
Even
like,
that, what I've just said there about sort of Xeleya being the sort of the university, the science side, and Mocklus being the weapons and the soldier side. I don't even think in Star Trek we see much of that with the Federation. It's like in the Orville universe, these people are part of the Union and they have a specific role, a specific job, whereas the Federation is just a big federation full of planets, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's kind of like everybody just gets lumped together. But there's clear distinctions between species in the Orville that makes it interesting. And it's like, I don't know if Seth MacFarlane had like help with the writing and everything. He must have had like a team of writers, but at the same time, it's like he is just. I mean, I stray to use the word genius, but I feel like a show like this is like a work of genius, and like successfully mixing comedy, action, and sci-fi like concepts with like space morals and stuff, like creating a spiritual successor to Star Trek without just like ripping it off completely.
Let's imagine if he's been sitting down there for years with like, making notes, writing like various manuscripts, elevator pitches for the Orville. He would have been putting stuff together for a long time because he's always been a Trekkie, even down to the extent that he was in Enterprise.
Sure was.
As I think he was Crewman McFarlane was his name.
Really?
But he was in an episode of
he's a vain
Enterprise
motherfucker though, I'll say that.
As an engineer. So if that was 2004, 2005, right? And then the Orville came out in 2017. So that's a good 12 years that he's potentially been thinking up and dreaming up his own Star Trek style show.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of people will straight up say that this show is like a ripoff or a like Star Trek fan fiction or something, and it's like, no, it's more than that. It does its own thing while keeping like what I love about Star Trek. Like, it has all the things I love about Star Trek, and it does some of its own things like better than a lot of, like you were saying, like we don't really get to see like the difference between the different Federation members so much in like TNG. It's mostly just humans walking around in their pajamas. But I forgot where were we at? We were at where they come over and Alara and her sister take the space car to go to the caretaker's cottage because they tried to call him to like see what's going on, see if he knew anything, and he didn't answer. So
Alara, they find all his gear still there.
Yeah, Alara's very much like, I'm gonna go investigate, and then she gets there, and there's nothing changed. Like he said he was going to the mainland. That's the thing that really sticks out. He said he was leaving, but all his stuff is still there. It's like, ooh, what's going on?
So then they go back to the house, and her dad's making... I didn't write down what the name of it was, but it's some kind of sauce, like a soup kind of stuff.
Soup or something? I don't know. I didn't write it down either, because I was like, I'm not going to say this pretend word, but I just tried to, so...
But as they're sitting there and like they're having a bit of a laugh, having a bit of a joke about with John Billingsley and his wife, and he's about to ladle up the soup, and Billingsley's like, "Oh, that's a horrible ladle. It's quite dirty. Why don't you use something a bit cleaner to plate up?" And he's like, "Why don't you use your hand?" He's like, "Oh, ha ha ha."
No, I'm serious.
He's like, no, I'm serious. And then he pulls out the gun.
And then it's like, oh shit, what is happening here?
It looks a little dirty.
No, it's fine, I promise.
Just the same, maybe you could use something else.
Okay. I'm sure I must have a spoon around here somewhere.
Why don't you use your hand?
Right.
I mean it.
What are you talking about? It's boiling hot.
Use your hand.
And he's like, his wife pulls out a gun on everybody there. They were having a laugh and talking about their son, right? Because Alara's father is like some kind of scientist who writes papers about stuff. And this couple brought up their son.
A scientist of medicine, funnily enough.
Right. There's so many doctors in this episode, but like they mentioned that their son was working at this school that Alara's dad just so happened to like, I guess, go and give lectures at. And they're like, oh, what a funny connection, haha. And then he puts his hand in the boiling soup. And then he takes it and spreads it all over the food.
Oh, I would say that is indeed spicy enough.
Like, he follows through with that. That was kind of disgusting. I was a little queasy in that scene, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just This episode had quite a few moments like that where it's just the sort of the physical discomfort level it made me like squirm and cringe. It was like
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like whenever I make spaghetti, sometimes I think about putting my hand in there, but I never do it. It's like there's a part of your brain that's like, why don't you just jump? And then you're like, because I would die. That's not a good idea, brain. Thank you. But it's like it's the thought of actually putting my hand in some boiling water. Ugh. Yeah, Robert Picardo fucking screams his head off too. He does a good job.
So I've got written down here that the paper that Picardo produced conflicted the paper that Billingsley's son produced. So Billingsley's son was on the side of there was a vaccine for a condition and the vaccine was harmful, so people weren't taking the vaccine, whereas Picardo fully researched it and was able to conclusively prove that the vaccine was harmless.
This was pre-COVID, by the way. Like, this came out pre-COVID, right?
Yes. I guess this would have came out in 2018, maybe 2017.
It's ironic.
I can't remember the exact dates.
Yeah. The whole vaccines cause autism thing has been around for a long time, though.
I mean, there's been anti-vax sort of stuff going about for years and years and years, but what Picardo says is that the Billingsley's son's research was flawed, it was incomplete, and that he did all the research himself, and he stands by the paper that he produced, but ultimately Billingsley's son felt absolutely humiliated, plunged into a massive dark depression, and committed suicide because of it, because of his research being disproven and disavowed. So it's Billingsley's intent to blackmail Picardo into reversing his position on the vaccine.
Right.
To then say it's harmful, to make a recording to that effect, and sort of put it into the world to sort of like validate his son's life kind of thing, which is, I mean, it's quite intense.
It is, talking about it right now, it makes me realize just how intense it is, because it's like you feel for, Phlox, and I don't know why I keep calling him Phlox. I don't remember the actor's name, but you feel for them because, like, their son, they lost their son, and even though his research was flawed, it didn't mean that he should have been in a position where he felt like he had no other choice but to take his own life. And you kind of understand that anger that's coming through, right? But at the same time, it's like, if he was wrong, he should have just accepted it. And this has gone way overboard at this point, like, and he straight up says, like, I will not tell people that a vaccine that works, like, doesn't. I won't do it. And then they point the gun at his family, and he's like, all right, I'll do it. Like, Alara says...
And then Alara says that, if you make a statement, he's just going to kill us anyway.
Right, which is a good point.
Billingsley's like, yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, because a lot of times when there's like a similar setup in another show, like, they would never bring that up because I guess it's too dark or something. But once somebody has like what they want from you, they don't need to like threaten you anymore. They can just end it anytime.
he makes a remark about like, "Oh, what a nice garden you have," and then his wife comes in with the shears and like goes to cut Picardo's other daughter's like fingers off with them. To try and force him into making the fake confession kind of thing. And that's another like moment where I was just like
it's uncomfortable.
When you see like her finger there between the massive sharp shears, and as well as that, like I have no doubt that that's actually something that's really actually happening. The actress is sitting there with her finger just like between the shears. Like that's accidents can happen. You'd never catch me doing something like that.
It's a classic intimidation technique, and like he even knowing that they might like kill them after he can like gives them what they want, he still tries to do it to save his daughter because it's just too much, and he's like, Phlox is like, yeah, don't worry, I know I'm gonna get what I want out of you, but I want you to feel just a little bit of what I felt to see your child suffering. And it's like, god damn, that goes beyond anger. That is just pure hatred. Like, he hates him. He doesn't just hate him, he hates his whole family. Like, it's intense. Like, this episode, I think the reason that, when I watched it or rewatched it,
so I'm gonna harm your daughters kind of thing.
Right. I felt like I wanted to do this episode first because it is so heavy with the emotions, and it's also a send-off episode for Alara. And it's really, really well done with her arc there. But he threatens his daughter, but then all of a sudden, Ed shows up. I think we skipped over the part, but they found out that there is a way that Alara can retain her muscle mass on the Orville.
Yeah, so they briefly mentioned that in the scene where the security officer's like slurping down his lunch.
Pound food.
Yeah.
Like, I can pound food, man. And then the doctor came in and she's like, I think I might have found a way to cure Alara, but like on the ship. So they've went back to speak to her, and Ed shows up at the door, and Billingsley sends Picardo like, answer it and get rid of him. And Ed's like, I need to speak to Alara. It's like, oh, you can't. She's sleeping. It's like, it's really important. I really need to speak to her. Like, it's so important that I speak to her. Like, right now. And he's really like pressing that and pressing that and pressing that. And Billingsley just gets pissed off and just fucking shoots him.
But please believe me when I tell you that I care about your daughter just as much as you do. Now I need to speak to her right away, and I'm not leaving until I do.
Yeah, because Ed says something like, I'm not leaving until I talk to her. And then he's just like, alright, boom. And little did he know there was another person on that ship. But he didn't have a suit. They only had one suit to step out into the gravity. They make that a point.
Yeah.
So Ed gets shot, but because he is in his gravity suit thing, he doesn't immediately die. He seems to be injured and unable to stand because the suit is compromised now, and the gravity is slowly crushing him.
He's being held against the ground, and he's got a timer thing that says that he's only got 3 minutes of before he gets crushed like a bug.
Right. Like that can that we saw earlier.
Yes. But this kicks off the massive fight scene.
The last 5 minutes where they're running through the house and away, like, it is very much like, it's almost like a horror film, like
it is. It's like Alara sends Picardo to like take the family upstairs and like lock them in a room, like hide them, because in horror you always go upstairs.
Yeah, even though you can't like leave the upstairs without jumping out of a window or something. But I mean, luckily they are some kind of richy rich.
I think
she'd
wrestled the gun off of Billingsley's wife and then shot her.
Right.
So Billingsley is now chasing her through the house to.
Like, he was going to shoot Ed dead.
They're just having a firefight, yeah.
Right, and then he hears the gunshot inside, and he's like, "Oh no, my wife!" And yeah, she's that's the first time Alara has like stepped into the gravity and been able to stand. So it's showing that she's like gaining her strength back, and at least a little bit, enough to save her family at least.
Everyone get upstairs and lock the doors.
Alara, what?
Dad, get him upstairs now!
Come on, go.
But she goes upstairs.
It's a very sort of mind over matter kind of thing as well. It's like she needs to do this to save her family.
Well, it's kind of like when human beings are in situations that are life or death, and we get a spike of adrenaline, like straight to the heart. It can motivate you. You can do like things that you would think would be impossible. So I kind of saw it as like that. But she goes upstairs and they're hiding up there, and she tells her dad that he needs to climb over the balcony and like go get Ed because he only has a few minutes left until he's crushed. And he's like, well, can't you do it?
Pulling back the gravity field of the ship.
Right. Gordon is just like standing there because he can't do anything. I thought about it and I was like, couldn't he just like back up the ship a little bit?
Yeah, like sort of take off and then fly a bit closer to Ed.
Yeah, there's no reason why he couldn't do that, right? I don't know, but that would have gotten rid of all the tension in the scene.
So Picardo's slowly trying to like jump off the balcony with only one hand because his other hand's like absolutely wrecked from picking up soup. And when he gets down to the ground to find the body of the housekeeper.
Yeah, he seemed like a nice guy. I felt bad for him. Then he grabs Ed and drags him over into the shield. And something I thought was interesting, like as soon as Picardo gets Ed into like the shield, he is able to move him much easier because he, it's no longer in the extreme gravity. Yeah, he like throws him. Like
maybe I was too busy focusing on another visceral, cringy moment where Ed's legs break.
Yeah.
Look.
A little further. A little further. Come on. Come on. A little further. A little further. Come on. Ed. Ed, are you okay? He's unconscious, but stable. You'll have to get him back to your ship, but he'll be all right. Are you gonna be all right? Alara took care of it. She always does.
Oh, jeez. They literally snap like a twig, and it is flat, and he like passes out from the pain. Oh. It's a good thing they have super medical technology in the future, because, I mean, that is a crippling injury for life, for us non-spacefaring people.
Yeah, so is having your leg actually physically amputated for a practical joke.
Yeah. Isaac never lived that down. That joke was still one of the best, like, season 1 gags, that's for sure. There's a lot of good episodes. But this one stands out to me for how serious it actually is. It's really only broken apart by the esophagus alien.
Betcha. I like all the carpets.
It's sweet.
That is literally the only sort of comic relief in that whole episode is that dude. But it's not a bad thing. I mean, I thought it was quite welcome, and it fits the vibe.
Yeah.
It's not like sometimes you're watching things and parts of it stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
But that doesn't. This is just another Monday on the Orville.
Yeah, it's a weird place, and it's kind of kooky, and I like that about it. And there's really only one more thing to that action scene is that Phlox breaks into the room eventually, but he doesn't check his corners. Like he You can kind of tell the
It's like
Xeleyans don't know anything about
open the window
military
door.
stuff. He just opens the door and like walks towards the balcony and doesn't check his corners. So of course, Alara, being the military-minded one, like, she ambushes him right before he turns around, and she kills him dead. It was kind of... I felt like his death was kind of, I don't want to say rushed, but it kind of just happened, you know? And then the tension dissolved, and the rest of the episode is really just about Alara kind of going... She's at the end of her journey of, like, self-discovery, you know? She ran away from home so that she could join the military and, you know, find a place for her that would accept her. And she did. But her dad, you know, literally is, like, in tears talking to her about, you know, I don't even know you. I never even tried to. And he's bawling because he realizes now, like, what his daughter does and how important it is. She saved all of their lives. And she knew just what to do when all of them were just lost. You know, like, he totally has a change of heart at the end, and realizes how important her job is, and how important she is to the family, really. And I thought that was a really sweet ending, because in real life, you don't often get these moments of people admitting they're wrong. Like, I mean, it does happen, but especially with parents, they tend to believe that, you know, their way is superior all the time, and you kind of get that a little bit with him earlier. He had no frame of reference for what she did or how hard it was to be her, and then going through this experience of life or death situation, he realizes just what he's been putting her down for, you know. And it's like, I'm sure there's a lot of people who, you know, they saw that and they're like thinking about their own parents and the kind of things that they wish their parents could understand. And I'm sure it goes both ways too, but it's like, it's just a really sweet ending. And she's like, you can tell that there's inner conflict about what she's going to do next, whether she stays with the Orville or not. She has the option to. There's no reason not to.
Yeah,
accept
so
that.
What they worked out on the ship is that they're able to make, in the simulator, which is basically a holodeck, a sort of a high gravity exercise gym thing, where she just needs to go in like a couple of times a week, and she'll be able to stay on the ship, but she'll still be able to maintain her high levels of strength.
Yeah, it's a perfect solution. And having this heart-to-heart with her dad kind of changes her mind a little bit.
And she wants to stay home to bond with her family.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, you know, you get moments between her sister, her dad, and her mother, where it's like, you understand why she wants to stay now, because it's just not like it was before. It's like the stories you tell yourself, you know? Like, did her dad have a problem with her, like, joining the military? Yeah. But what was she telling herself? That her sister, who is like an overachiever, is like, thinks that she's better than her or something? Like, there was a bit of like sibling rivalry going on between them, because the parents would talk about her in such a positive light. You get the sense that this family is not a hateful family. It is a very loving family, but there's just a barrier of communication sometimes, which is very relatable.
Yes. Like I said earlier, Picardo's character is definitely not very tactful when he's speaking to her.
Not at all. But that's just his personality, you know? Like, not Robert Picardo, but his character's personality.
Very end of it, when she leaves the ship, like, everyone's in the shuttle bay, and like everyone just like gives her a hug, that's quite sweet.
Yeah, you know, she tells the captain, like, I'm leaving, you know, like, because I have what I thought I only had here, I now have at my real home, and I want to be with my family. And I know that for some reason, like, the actress in real life had some kind of conflict with schedule or something. There was a reason that they decided her character needed an exit, but man, I've never seen a character exit a show so gracefully before. Like, normally it's just very jarring, like a character just isn't there anymore, or they're replaced with somebody else, and it's like, you know, they just act like it didn't happen, maybe like a line of dialogue or something, but like The Witcher, they got rid of Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill was playing the live-action Witcher, but apparently because him and the creative team had differences, because he actually read the Witcher books and they didn't, and he's a fan of the games, like, he was trying to tell them, like, this is not something that would happen, or this or that, and they just got rid of him because of that. I believe that's what the story is, but he just left, and they replaced him with somebody who looks different, and it's like, wow, okay, now we have a different guy playing the same character in this, like...
Yeah, it's so jarring when they do that. It's like, wait a minute, that's not the dude. What the fuck?
Dude, it used to happen all the time, though, in, like, old sitcoms and stuff like that. They would just replace characters willy-nilly, you know? Like, it would be the same character, but they would be, like, a different guy. And it would be like, where's the old guy? I liked him. But Alara's, like, leaving the show was, like, so graceful. And they gave her, like, a whole reason to leave. You know, it wasn't just like, oh, the actress just can't show up anymore. Let's just do whatever, you know? Like, let's just replace her with another security officer. It really felt like the cast at the end there was actually saying their goodbyes to her. And we were too.
And then at the very end of it, when Ed opens the parcel that she gave to him, and it's a jar of pickles.
I don't remember what that's about, because I feel like that's a reference to something that happened earlier, but I don't remember.
Door's jammed. Alara, you want to open this jar of pickles for me?
It's his catchphrase whenever they're on an away mission and there's like a door that he can't open, or if there's like something that he needs her strength for, he says, Alara, can you open this jar of pickles for me?
Oh yeah! Oh, I get it now. That is clever. Yeah, that's the end of the episode right there. As far as, like,
they fit so much stuff into that 45 minutes, man.
It was a roller coaster of emotion. Like, you had periods of despair, happiness, joy, sorrow, just
wonder,
terror.
Like the when you see all the stuff on the planet, it's like this sense of wonder and joy, just like seeing the city and the countryside and the animal thing.
Yeah. Oh, I also wrote down the that horse thing. It was like, if it was CGI, it was really good CGI, but I think it was practical.
Yeah, because her sister goes up to it and pets it. So
yeah. No, it looks real to me.
An animal thing of some kind there, like a horse or something, that has been sort of like augmented reality put on top of it in post.
Oh, I just looked at my notes again. One more point. When she is trying to get her dad to go over the balcony, and he's like really like, oh no, I can't do this. Like she reassures him and tells him that he can do this. Like essentially what she wanted from him, she gives him. And it gives him the courage to do what he has to do. And it's like, wow. It's like, there's a lot happening here, you know? And people might look at the Orville and just see the trailers of the jokes and just think that it's like, it's just one big joke. But it's like, no.
It's Family Guy, man.
It's your Family Guy. It's Star Trek made by the Family Guy.
All right, men, this is a dangerous mission, and it's likely one of us will be killed. The landing party will consist of myself, Mr. Spock, Dr. McCoy, and Ensign Ricky.
Ah, crap.
But it's not. This is like serious storytelling, and it's good. And it's very good. It's like the kind of thing that after it's over, you're still thinking about it, you know?
Yeah, it's just absolutely brilliant, man. I don't know what else to say.
I don't either. Like, we've praised it for the past like hour, you know, pretty much everything about it. There's no, in my opinion, it has no negatives. This one episode, it has no downtime and no negatives. It keeps me engaged the whole time. And yeah, I would recommend it. If y'all haven't seen the Orville, give it a chance. But watch it from the beginning, because that's really the best way to experience it.
And also to say that a lot of sort of, well, when I say classic Star Trek, I mean, well, older Trek going up through Enterprise. But a lot of the criticisms that older Trek drew was that the first season was generally quite rubbish, and then it gets better. But I felt the Orville always had quite a high bar of quality.
It sets the bar pretty high when Boris lays an egg. You know what kind of show you're getting into at that point. And I would, you know what episodes I would love to talk to you about? The ones involving Topa.
Yes.
Because if you want political commentary set in an epic sci-fi universe, there you go. It's very much modern day influenced, you know, like. And that's what Star Trek has really excelled at over the years, is just kind of pushing this like progressive message, but not in like the toxic way that people think about progressivism nowadays, but like, you know, actual people getting along, people resolving their differences without violence progression. Like, and the Orville continues that tradition. Is it sometimes kind of stuck up its own ass? Yes. Because Seth MacFarlane is a vain person, and he knows it. At least he's self-aware about it. But
of course, he's the captain of the ship on his own TV show.
He couldn't cast anybody else. Nobody else could do it. I don't know.
I'm Captain Kirk.
It's a passion project all the way through, though. It, like, despite how vain the man is, he knows how to act, he can sing, and he knows how to entertain people. And I think that it's just, it's a very well-rounded series, and I'd love to talk about it some more with you sometime.
The only thing that I find quite difficult is actually, like, when he's sitting there in the captain's chair, I still keep imagining him as being Brian Griffin.
Oh my god, right?
Wow, a song named after a girl. There aren't a million of those already.
Name 20.
Rosanna, Roxanne, Michelle, Allison, Sarah, Angie, Brandy, Mandy, Gloria, Cecilia, Maggie May, Jessica, Nancy, Barbara Ann, Billie Jean, Layla, Lola, Polly, Helena, Jenny from the Block.
Name 6 more.
Sherry, Laura, Wendy, Maria, Peggy Sue, Minnie the Moocher.
Name 5 more.
Tracy, Jean, Jane, Mary Ann, Eleanor Rigby.
Go fuck yourself.
Like, his face is so distinct that sometimes I'm just like, I can't take him seriously. But he's classically trained to the point where he can act his way through things, you know? Like, it's not as distracting as you might think it would be. Well, I'm just about things to say about this one.
Same here. Well, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up with
take us home, Stu.
Next time. What should we do the next time? You want to briefly talk about the first couple of episodes of Discovery? I'll give it a watch as well, and we can compare thoughts on it. I don't know if you've written down any notes. I don't think you'd need to write lots of notes about it, but we could briefly talk about a few things.
I'll tell you that I wrote down. Well, I actually have my wife like right next to me because I'm a pretty slow writer, and I would just we watched the first 2 episodes together, and I was like telling her my thoughts, and she would write it down, and we had like 2 or 3 pages full for like the first episode, because it's just like, oh my god, what's happening? Why does everything look different? What is this? Why is this character doing this? Like all kinds of stuff. And then by the second episode, we had like 3 lines, like, because we were just so numb at that point. We were just like, okay, I guess this is how it is. I'm sure there's like higher points in Discovery than the opening, but it's like, it just has, it's like, I feel like I said this before at some point, but it makes you it brings you really down, and it used to not be like that. Star Trek is not a series where I want to feel like, you know, humanity is on the brink of extinction. Like, leave that to Halo and Warhammer 40k. I love
Star
messages.
Trek. Usually it makes me feel good, but why does this one make me feel stressed out?
Why does this one? It has a lot of problems. I don't know if I'm gonna finish watching the first season of Discovery because I feel like I already know what it's gonna be. It's gonna be more scenes of Michael Burnham like assaulting people and getting away with it because she knew what was gonna happen, or she knew she had the secret knowledge of something. I would like to talk about the opener and how it is inferior to, like, let's say, Emissary, which we talked about. Like, Emissary is a bomb opener. Like, it sets up everything perfectly. But, Discovery, not so much. Anyway, let's save that for another time. And, take us home. Take us home, StooDogg.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have been StooDogg. This has been Kadenza, and we'll catch you next time.
Whee!
This is Stu.